Welcome to csolit.com, the podcast where we break down cybersecurity, cloud, and technology topics into practical insights for business and IT leaders. Once again, I'm your host, Yavor Zlatev, and in each episode, we will talk with experts who share real world experience and provide actionable advice that you can use right away. Let's get started today. Our guest today is from Tenable, and he will be sharing his experience and best practices, also presenting Tenable as a cybersecurity solution. Tenable is a leader in exposure management, and it's providing much more. It's one of the greatest cybersecurity companies worldwide. Here we are with Bernard Montel. Bernard, nice to meet you, and I'm happy that you're part of our podcast. Happy to be your host today. Uh,
And thank you very much, Yavor. And I'm very happy as well to be part of the podcast today. It's my pleasure.
same here. Uh, okay, so let's start with a short presentation as we have agreed for Tenable. So you can showcase to us what you have at Tenable as a technology. What are the new challenges that you're offering solution worldwide? Happy to see what you have prepared for us.
Okay, thank you. So I will start. I think a lot of people are knowing Tenable for a lot of years around what we used to call, and we still used to call, vulnerability management or vulnerability assessment. Since more than 20 years, we are the leader around vulnerability management, but today, Tenable has expanded and evolved into a much broader capacity than only looking after vulnerabilities, which are still very important, but we're doing today what we call exposure management. I will share with you in 15 minutes how we did evolve as a company, what are we doing today, and what are the challenges we are covering. Okay. We used to say with Tenable, your exposures hands here, meaning that really we are an important partner for a lot of organizations, and I will start with that. Today we have 44,000 customers worldwide,
Wow, a lot.
which is big. And sometimes, people are knowing us around our classical offer, which is Nessus, which is very active, still very active. But I will share with you today what we do more than vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management. And I just mentioned this new domain where we are also considered as leader, which is exposure management. I will share that at the end of the presentation because we are very proud of that today. So we are offering solutions for any kind of organizations, very small organizations using Nessus, and 65% of the Fortune 500 companies worldwide, which mean as well huge and important organizations in any kind of sector, from public sector to obviously private organizations in any kind of domain. Okay. One step we are very proud of as well is our research. We have 1.5 tera, of unique exposure data points, every year. I'm sorry, it's not tera, it's trillions, 1.5 trillions of unique exposure data points every year, meaning that we have a huge research team, which is, searching for vulnerabilities, but also searching regarding misconfigurations in cloud environment, OT environment, and more recently, AI as well.
Okay, so you cover IT and OT environment also. That's
We
that.
we do. And again, we started in 2002 with vulnerability assessment. We moved into vulnerability management and what we called RBVM, which is risk-based vulnerability management. And this is, mainly how Tenable is known in the industry. But what I wanted to highlight here is what do we do more than vulnerability management? In 2019, we acquired a company in the OT space. The OT was the first non-pure vulnerability management domain that we started to address, back 6 years ago. So since 6 years, we are doing IT and OT, and we were the first in talking about IT and OT convergence, but not only talking about, but also covering that use case, which is the IT and OT convergence back in 2019. Since we evolved into other part of the attack surface, our objective and our goal is to help organizations reducing their risk from an exposure standpoint everywhere in the attack surface. One of the key elements is identity. We also wanted to cover that space. If you have an access which is badly configured and giving someone admin rights specifically around the Active Directory and Entra ID and any kind of identity provider that organizations are using, this is an open door for an attack path. So this is why we moved in 2021 into that space with identity and cloud. More recently, we also acquired a couple of other technologies in attack surface management, understanding what is unknown for organizations out there, which is any kind of assets which is exposed, because by the end of the day, at the end of the day, this is how attackers are doing. They are scanning and screening any kind of asset they can find externally. So we wanted to be able to help our customers as well in this domain. In the past 3 years, we've done 3 important acquisitions. One in the CNAP, area, the cloud area. We wanted to be able to cover the full use case around the cloud exposures. This is why we acquired a company called Emeric. And then more recently, we acquired 2 important companies, one into the exposure management to expand our capacity in the platform, to open the platform to non-tenable data, third-party data, which is Vulcan, and more recently, obviously, AI, because AI is a new exposure, and everyone has an exposure in AI today. So we acquired a company called Apex, giving us the capacity to do what we do with AI exposure attached to exposure management.
Indeed, especially the AI nowadays, it's a big factor. And
it's a very important one. We combine cloud and AI exposure today, and that is a very key element because this is where the attack surface is going. I mentioned exposure management. Gartner as well is working on that specific domain because Gartner has launched a Magic Quadrant on exposure management. Even before the end of the presentation, I can share that we are very proud of the fact that we are considered leader by the Gartner on exposure management. And not only, I will give you that at the end, but the goal of exposure management is not to fix everything. The goal is to have a risk-based approach, looking after any kind of exposure that can target an organization from the business standpoint. Here we are talking about reducing the risk of cyber from a proactive way, the risk of exposure from a business standpoint as well, and that is what is exposure management. It's not just yet another set of technical misconfigurations that we have just to put everything together and have more, issues or more alerts. Yes, we need vulnerability. Yes, we need identity misconfigurations. Yes, we need technical misconfigurations to be collected and put everything together. But our goal is really to link that from a risk standpoint, from a business impact. Okay, without having the business impact, it's just technical information. The business impact giving us the capacity to look after what is important from an exposure standpoint for an organization.
Actually, that is the role of the CSO also, to evaluate all the time what would be the business impact based on the technological exposures.
We want to help the CISO to answer to one question. Am I impacted today from an exposure standpoint in my business? Okay. But how they do it today? So today, most of the organizations are working in silo. We have different teams, we have different tools, and we have specialists. One is looking after identity, Another team is looking after OT, and another team is looking after vulnerability or cloud, okay, or now AI as well. It's important to have specialists. Our approach is not disruptive, but today they're all working with different technologies and in silo. Having having an overview, having a holistic view about exposures, it's a very difficult process for organizations today because they have to go to each and single team. They have to have different tools, different reporting tools, different workflow, and different methodologies. Okay, so one of the key message and one of the key feedback that our customers are giving back to us is it's a very painful for us. It's very difficult to have an exposure view because we need to collect many kind of report, many kind of data in different places, in different teams. Okay, so that siloed approach doesn't work anymore for being efficient, for understanding, and being able to answer, am I exposed today? And this is one of the key elements for the CISO and for the board as well, because we want to be able to produce to the board very simple report where they can see their exposures from a business standpoint. We cannot do that if you are operating in silo.
That is indeed a real need. I really like that particular part of the presentation. Putting together people, process, and technologies it's a challenge for everyone sitting in the shoes of the CISO. So I'm really impressed to see that from one console, practically you can show correlated information for different areas like IoT, OT environment, for example, or the application security. Putting this together, it's a real challenge.
As you mentioned, and that is very important, it's a people, process, and technology. It's a transformation for organizations. But we're not talking about a big bang here, okay? We're talking about a transformation and evolution from vulnerability management to exposure management. That's exactly the way Gartner is defining it with their framework called CTEM, but it's a journey. Some of the customers and organizations are very mature in that journey already. Some of them, they need to start, and we are looking after helping them in that journey, okay? But what are the drivers? What are the key elements of exposure management? Number one, I just mentioned the silo is transitioning from a fragmented approach to a unified approach. And again, there would be more silo if we not start to unify all of those fragmented data, fragmented teams. And again, as you said, it's a people, process, and technology. But from a people standpoint, we still need specialists. We still need, specialized product and specialists on their domain. But they need to start working together, at least at a certain level. The second point is, but I already mentioned that just before, from a static technical to business and contextual. Without the contextual business, we won't be able to help understanding the business impact if there is a specific attack path, if there is a specific vulnerability, if there is a specific exposures. Yes, we still need the technical part, but if we stop there, it's not enough. The third part, we don't need more noise. We don't need more list of vulnerabilities to fix. We don't need more alerts. The business and the risk-based approach is something that we will narrow to what is needed and what is impactful from an exposure standpoint. And that is where we will help reducing the noise and not increasing the noise. You wanted to say something?
If I may ask, how that correlate with the compliance and the governance which is required nowadays, not just in European Union, but even outside of the European Union. The compliance is a very, how to say, famous word when we have to talk about IT systems, and everyone is talking about this, especially with AI, included in the picture. I see that you have a system that put everything together, which could be super helpful to every CISO, practically to deliver a business report to the management and to correlate what it's important for the business to see, because this is saving time also.
Yes, we are covering that use case. Compliance is very important. Compliance is the bare minimum. Compliance is how organizations can have the same level of security all together. Okay. It's a way for government and institutions to force organizations to apply best practices. Okay. But compliance is not enough. Compliance, and we used to say that as well, is not security, is compliance. Okay. They're
Indeed.
working together, but a security-based approach, which is one of the best practice, which is really looking at a risk-based security, is working with compliance, but not, but compliance itself cannot just do everything. Okay.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
One last part I just mentioned in this slide is what we call mobilization. Mobilization is what do we do if we have an exposure? We start to have a workflow. We start to having teams and the process attached to it working together to be able to remediate to that workflow, to that exposure. Okay. How we do it, we have created a platform called Tenable One. This is not new. We started 4 years ago, roughly, with a capacity to aggregate the data into one place, and then being able to serve with different kind of use cases. Obviously, having a full inventory, being able to detect attack path, helping into answering to one of the questions I just mentioned, which is what are the main priority I need to look after, and then remediation and workflow. And as you mentioned, reporting and high-level, C-level dashboarding capacity as well. We at Tenable are covering five main domains, cloud exposure, vulnerability exposure historically, identity, as I mentioned, with the timeline of the company we acquired, OT since 2019, and more recently, AI exposures. Not only we are offering the platform, but we're also offering the tools to find those exposures. We are offering the sensors. We are providing to our customers a toolbox where they can cover their attack surface without going to another technology, without going to make an RFP and selection and other technologies. Most of our organizations and customers are using with us vulnerability management, but if they want to expand to cloud, they can do that with Tenable One. It's a toolbox. They have one license, Tenable One, and they can use whatever tool they have in the toolbox. And those are the five, categories, and we have, sub, technologies inside, like, attack surface management or web application scanning. So Tenable One is an exposure management platform, but it's also a license and it's also a toolbox. You buy a set of assets. Imagine you buy 1,000 or 10,000, and then you can use whatever technology we are providing, inside of the toolbox. But if an organization have already some other technologies, which is most of the case, the time, okay, they can aggregate, what they have already, and then integrate that data into Tenable One as a platform. Imagine you already have something around, attack surface management, but you want to keep it. Then you can integrate that information into the platform. Imagine you are a very big organization. You've done, a merge with another big organization. Some of the time this is the case, and you already have Tenable in the vulnerability management, but someone else has another technology for doing VM. We can integrate that data into the platform. That is a second use case called aggregation. And the third use case is what I'm calling governance. Not only we are having technical information, but we have C-level capacity to decide and look after the risk of exposure. And I will show you that just after doing the demo, but that is the third use case, which is governance of the exposures from a risk standpoint.
I mean, it's impressive, including the integrations that you have. That's what I can add additionally. If I may ask, are you supporting all of the public cloud providers? I assume the answer is yes, from the perspective of exposure management, because the cloud is a very popular world as AI, for the last couple of years. Companies are using quite extensively the biggest cloud providers worldwide.
In our cloud security component, which is just here, I'm going back here, cloud exposures. Yes, we are multi-cloud. We are supporting AWS, GCP, and Azure and Oracle as well. And we are planning to do more. And, we have a long roadmap of existing cloud providers everywhere in the world. That is what we do that with Tenable, cloud security solution. But in the meantime, as you can see here, we also are covering, some other vendors with our integration. So meaning that we have no limit to be able to today integrate any kind of exposures coming from our own sensors and coming from third-party providers as well.
So
At
you are
the
able
end,
to ingest data, from
we
different
can
sources.
ingest that data, and we
Yes.
can ingest as well, any kind of data with third-party, technologies. I can mention some of them like Wiz or Palo Alto or whatever, but this is the logo you can see in the screen here. If you already have a CNAP and you want to keep it, keep it, but you can integrate that data into it. If you don't have one, you can use the one that we are providing directly through the license of Tenable One.
I think this is indeed a huge selling point of Tenable, just because all of the IT environments, they have their diverse type of products, different type of products. So such kind of integrations and practically ingesting data is crucial, and I'm happy to see that you're having it. Having said also what you have presented in the previous slide, AI module, OT module, and practically vulnerability assessment plus cloud, to me, that seems like a full stack. I mean, that it's really impressive. Happy to learn more.
And the unique value and differentiator that we have is that we can provide both. Most of the time you find in the market exposure management platform, they do aggregation, but they do not do consolidation. They are not providing the sensors. We are providing the sensors. We can cover part of your attack surface if you don't have anything, okay? In the case you go to a pure aggregator, then if you don't have anything around identity, for example, then you need to select a product, you need to do an RFP, and it will take 6 months before you are covered. In the case of Tenable, you can just instance your identity exposure into the exposure management platform, use it, and then in a year from now, you don't like it, you want to have another one, then you can aggregate. So we can really have that capacity to be able to aggregate and consolidate, and being, at the end of the day, this is the choice of the project to implement at the rhythm they want to cover the attack surface today. If there is a new threat tomorrow morning, exploiting Active Directory, our existing Tenable One customers can activate immediately their identity exposure, sensor, solution, product, whatever, which is inside, and they don't have to wait. They are not uncovered, okay? And that's exactly what we need to achieve and why we have created Tenable One.
Yep, and it's giving full visibility on all the other parts of the environment, OT and IT, which also I find very interesting, just because nowadays the OT environment, it's getting bigger and bigger, and putting together IT and OT environment, it's also a big challenge. And the fact that you're consolidating everything, aggregating everything, as you are saying, under one console, it's also impressive, because it makes the product, at least that's my understanding, flexible to fit in any environment, irrelevant practically what is the environment. The size, the type of vendors, which is impressive, from technological point of view.
And one stuff I didn't mention, and I remember it, we also are providing on-prem solutions. Tenable One is a SaaS-based solution, which is a platform, but we have on the VM, we have the capacity to provide an on-prem solution attached to Tenable One, by the way. And all of the solutions we are providing, whether they are SaaS or on-prem, can be not only sold into the Tenable One license, but they are integrated into the Tenable One platform as well. Okay, So we have, Security Center, which is our VM on-prem solutions. We have Identity Exposure, which is on-prem as well. There is a version on-prem. We have OT. There is a version on-prem. So we have also WAS application scanning existing on-prem. So we have as well customers that have a certain sensitivity. They don't want to have technologies only on SaaS. So we have that capacity to be hybrid. Okay, we can be on-prem 100%, we can be SaaS 100%, and we can be hybrid as well. And all of those solutions, SaaS-based or on-prem based, can be connected to Tenable One as a platform.
Yep, that's what I also see. By the way, that was one of my question from architecture point of view, but you already answered it with that. That it's actually supporting a hybrid model of work, or either on-prem or SaaS, based on the preference of the customer, probably based on the industry, because there are industries that are more sensitive from perspective of using SaaS and even cloud solutions. So they're more traditional and conservative in that way.
We want to give the choice to our customers. We want them to be able to deploy Tenable solutions in their environment the way they want. Okay, I'm not talking about, we hear about, Kubernetes or clusters. We can do that as well, but that will be too much detailed. Okay.
Yeah, it was also another question of me, because on the application side, especially with the microservices nowadays in the cloud, that is a huge topic, probably that we cannot cover in today's podcast, but as vulnerability assessment, exposure management of Kubernetes systems and microservice types of systems, it's a big topic, to cover. But my understanding is that Tenable is covering this also from perspective of application coverage.
The domain called CWP, which is Cloud Workload Protection, is definitely a domain we are covering in many instances. We can look after understanding, the vulnerabilities and the misconfigurations of, container images, container runtime in the cloud providers we mentioned before, like AWS and so on, and GCP and Azure. But we can do that as well on-prem. So we have a capacity to scan and discover misconfigurations into existing private cloud, and most of the time they are hosting such orchestrators like Kubernetes. But definitely that use case is covered in and out, meaning that with our SaaS solution, we can also cover on-prem. And with our on-prem solution, we can obviously scan containers which are clustered like with Kubernetes as well.
In the cloud, at least my experience is that well-architected framework has to be also always implemented. Irrelevant which public cloud is going to be used, and the main challenge there it's practically to position resources well from perspective of security, from perspective of performance, and at the same time to have the right solution in place, which is able to find configuration gaps. Because the technological practice and the way how cloud setups are done is not just to put resources there. And I'm saying this from a technological point of view, and most of the people are facing challenges exactly in that, to find configuration gap, to find the vulnerability gap, to find an exposure gap that comes out when the well-architected framework it's not done well, when it's not designed well sometimes.
And you know what? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. And
my point is, which from what I see, practically Tenable is going to help, is able to help a lot in this direction, which is crucially important, because it's not like the old days when actually the applications are sitting on a server and they're in the cloud, they're on premise. There is a combination, practically creating complex hybrid environments in different geolocations, which practically it's making the exposure surface quite big, and difficult to manage. And as we have correctly mentioned, different teams, sometimes in different geolocations, working on the same applications. So one solution that can showcase the potential gaps from different angles is crucially important. And I see that Tenable can deliver that.
So one of the example is one of the customers, that were using our technology on vulnerability management. They were scanning for many years. Then, their IT moved progressively to the cloud,
Mhm.
internally and externally. So mechanically, they needed a CNAP. They needed a solution which is cloud security that we have. Okay. And instead of going outside, they say, okay, fine, I have Tenable One. So I just start to using it. And then the CNAP people, the cloud security people have one tool, the VM people have another tool, fine with that.
Yes.
But the CISO on top of him say, I want to have
Incidental.
a unified view. I
Yes.
cannot go to the one team and say, hey, give me your report, and the other team, hey, give me your report, and
Yes.
then manually try to combine it. That is exactly what we do with exposure management and Tenable One. Okay.
Which also another question about the reporting, which is also very, very important. Perhaps during the demo you can showcase this a bit, but from a CISO point of view, the reporting is crucial. Reporting to C-level executives in the organization, and also to have a view of what's going on, especially when the IT environment is big. That is a challenge. That is a challenge, and on the exposure surface, that's a challenge on a daily basis. So I'm sure that the audience is going to
Yeah.
see
Uh,
these advantages here.
During the demo, I will show you how much, the platform is large. As you can see in this slide, which is technical. We need to have those information. This is a data lake. We need to be able to have access to the data lake and understand, the kind of assets do we have, the findings do we have. That is important. That is an horizontal view. But we
Yeah.
also have the vertical view, which is top down. CISO, they don't care about the details. They don't care about how the technology is working. They don't care about if that is specifically attached to a critical vulnerability, or this is an OT misconfiguration, or this is a Kubernetes. They don't even have a clue about how it is working behind the scene, and they don't need it. Okay. So since day one, Tenable One has been designed as a risk-based top-down approach, and you will see that in the UI very quickly. Okay. Let
Great.
me finish with two slides. Most of the time, people are asking, hey, yet another platform, and I already have a platform. I have a platform for that. I have a platform for that. We are doing only one stuff. We're looking after being proactive, and we're looking after reducing exposures. Okay. Since 20 years, Tenable is looking after reducing the risk of exposures. We started with Nessus at a time where only scanning vulnerabilities was enough. Okay. And as you understood, we expanded because the attack surface expanded. Today, if you are looking after each and single weaknesses, exposures, vulnerability, misconfiguration siloed, the reactive part, the SOC, the detection response side of the house will have a lot of incident and alerts to manage. Our goal is to be able to reduce the impact of a number of alerts and incidents. If organizations are proactively understand if there is an attack path, understand if there is what we call a toxic combinations between a vulnerability, an identity, and a misconfiguration, as much as we can in advance, then mechanically we are closing the doors. Mechanically, we are reducing the risk of the attack surface. And then mechanically, the SOC will have less alerts and then incidents, which is just logical what I'm saying here, okay? When we approach exposure management on the left-hand side, we have a benefit on the right-hand side. But this is two different domains, People coming from detection and response, they are specialists on detecting and answering. We are specialists of understanding exposure. And this is not the same work. This is not the same domain. So that is what we do on the left to be able to help organizations being more efficient as well in their detections by just closing the doors and windows before attackers are jumping into it. Okay?
Yep. I
And
really
then just
like.
to finish, any question on this one?
No questions here. This is a very nice part of the presentation indeed.
Okay, so we have organizations and customers they are using Tenable One, and they've seen an efficiency. So there are many use cases we can cover. Obviously, reducing the risk is one of the use case. Reducing the cost as well, because with only one toolbox, you can have access to a lot of sensors for covering your attack surface. This is also reducing the cost. But this is around increasing the efficiency. How can we be more efficient by globally helping the SOC reducing their noise by closing the doors in advance instead of being just reactive. And I just want to finish with this one. In fact, there is only one slide I just forgot, is about what we do on AI. So let me go after the demo, and after that I will show you what we do on AI. But we are very proud of the fact that we have the three main analysts, respectively, Gartner, IDC, and Forrester. I put it as leaders. We are the leader on exposure management. If you look at those three graphs, Tenable is the biggest, bubble, biggest and the best positioned organizations today to be able to help organizations in their exposure management journey. There is no doubt, and we are very proud of that. So I wanted to share that with you just before going to the demo. Okay.
Yeah, you should. I mean, that deserves to be proud, because there is a lot of work behind that, from what I can see.
Okay. Yes.
I mean,
definitely.
You have answered most of the questions that I had. Probably, during the limited time that we have during that podcast, I have one additional question, which is more about the model of work of Tenable. Are you working with partners or directly selling, to end customers? This is probably a common question that you're going to have. It's a commercial question. How you would prefer to work, and when the clients are looking for the Tenable solution, what is the preference of Tenable, to work with a partner who is, let's say, certified, knows how to work with the solution?
Very simple. We are 100% indirect. We do not sell direct. So we have a partner program with different levels, obviously.
Okay.
And then we are selling 100% indirect. Another part which is super important is most of our there is a big increase of using managed services companies to help hosting, managing, and obviously deploying the solutions we are providing. And so the MSSP part is really increasing from our point of view. So answering to your questions, there is two elements: 100% indirect, and MSSP is really the two elements that we are seeing here today. But Tenable is a channel company.
Okay, I do believe a lot in the model, just because the cybersecurity skill, it's important, and when you put together MSSP plus the great technology from the vendor, the results are better. That's my opinion. Thank you. Let's see the demo that
Let's go to the demo, and I will show you that in a minute. Let me just go back to one slide that I'm preparing just after the demo. Yeah, the AI one just after the demo. Okay, because I just forgot it. Give me 1 minute. I'll be with you. So the demo. Let me share the screen. Here we are, back again. You see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So when we are logging into Tenable One as a platform, as I said to you, it's a platform and a toolbox, meaning that I have everything accessible. So if I am a security practitioner and I'm only looking after vulnerability management, I'm clicking here and I'm looking after my vulnerability management. The same for identity exposure, the same for OT exposure, cloud, and so on. So the team, the specialists, will go straight forward and have all of the details, all of the information they need directly into the domain. Okay. Now, clicking on exposure management, but in big screen. Here we are. So the landing page of Tenable One Exposure Management Platform is a 360 view a 10,000 feet view of your exposure. Okay, very quickly you see how much vulnerabilities do you have, their level, cross-domain. Here we have vulnerabilities coming from cloud, coming from OT, coming from any kind of a container, or obviously the classical networks and assets. Okay, the same for misconfiguration. So if I click on that, I will do that just after. I have a transverse view to look after my high critical vulnerability or my high critical misconfigurations. Okay. Here I can see the domain and the kind of asset. I have VM data, I have identity data, web application scanning, OT, and cloud security coming into my platform. I also have the tags, the main tags, because we have a business view. We have an organizational view. It's not only a technical view. So I can see looking after, data source third-party provider, and that's the same. Very quickly, on the top right here, I can see a heat map of attack path. Okay, top right is very critical, very sensitive. Here I have some other attack paths. So in this domain, in the demo application demo, I have a lot. But what is very important here is my risk. How am I? Am I good? B, it's a good risk. It's 382. But what kind of exposure should I have? I have in my system. I have OT, I have cloud, I have web application scanning. I can see my level. So everything is fine except potentially cloud where I need to look after. And what about the tags? Oh, manage assets. Local check scan in the last 30 days is exactly where I should look after if I want to increase that posture. Okay. If I want to go to more details, I can go back to the analytics view. Okay. And as I said to you today, this is a very C-level view. I have two elements here. I have the dashboards and reports, which are much more operational, and I have the exposure view. The exposure view is it's a C-level view. It's for my CISO. Okay. In the case of that specific environment, I can see that I have some source of data, cloud, identity, all of those sensors coming from Tenable, but I also have some third-party sources. Here I have Microsoft, AWS, ServiceNow, Red Hat, and Wiz. Okay, so my platform is open. My platform have information coming from third-party non-Tenable data. But if I want to go down, I want to analyze my risk. Here we are. Okay, imagine I am in the education. I can compare my risk to some peers. Okay, I can go down and see the trends. I can see the SLA that I defined as an organization that I want to respect for the last month, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. Okay. I can also break down those SLAs per risk and the capacity to remediate that risk. Okay. For now, I still have a lot of risk to remediate that I didn't. So I can look after the non-remediated risk and act upon them. Okay. I can see also the tags, which one has been used specifically. And so I can see this one participated into the risk calculation more than the others, but all of those tags has been used for, the tag participation for my risk calculation. Make sense?
Makes sense, yes.
Okay.
What I
From
found
there,
also interesting is the comparison with the industry where
exactly.
where actually the environment sits.
Okay. So how it is working, we are collecting all of those information, assets and weaknesses. We are unifying them and having a risk which is calculated and normalized. Okay. From there, we can then produce that report. And again, this is the same than the first one. I can click on here. I can see the tags. Okay. If I'm going per exposures, I go there, I click and I can see the related assets. Okay. Now I'm moving to my asset inventory part where I can see all of those assets, all of the findings, the software, because we also do software inventory, and the weaknesses. Findings mean alerts, where weaknesses mean vulnerability, okay, or misconfiguration. I can browse per domain, okay. I can browse only my containers. This is a cross-domain view. I can see only the resources or storage or web application, or I can go per technology, whatever they are coming from Tenable or from third party. In this case, as you can see, this is an asset score with coming from with issues and with vulnerability management, and there is 4,900K active findings, meaning a lot of issues. Okay, I can go and find a VM view. I can go to, where is it? Vulnerability management. This is coming only from Tenable. Okay, and then, oh yeah, this asset, we also do deduplications, meaning that is a source that has been viewed by Tenable Attack Surface Management, by AWS, and also two others. We have that specific asset has been viewed by Attack Surface Management, has been scanned by Vulnerability Management from Tenable, by our cloud security domain, but also EC2 from AWS. Okay, so if I look after this one, I can see the details. Okay, I can see that, the active findings. Okay, and I click on one of them. This is related to misconfiguration. This is related to a specific vulnerability. So let's look after this one. Okay, and I can see there is a vulnerability attached to it. Okay.
Yep.
If I go back to the findings, oops, here we are. What I can do as well is, imagine I just want to select just those two, and I want to create an exposure signal, which is a rule that can notify me if there is any other findings like that way. I can also create a ticket externally to, I don't see it here. No, I don't have it here, but I can create, a ticket for ServiceNow or Jira externally as well. Okay.
So when there is a high severity CV, practically to be addressed immediately.
Okay. Last I want to show you is attack path, which is very important as well. Okay. So attack path is a combination of what we are calling, toxic combinations, where we have a capacity to really open attack path from the sources to a destination. If I'm going to this one, Lockbit is, a criminal cyber criminal ransomware group. I have 105 open today attack paths that Logbit could potentially use. Okay, which is exactly looking after how Logbit is operating. Okay, so I'm just looking after one of them, and you can see graphically how the path is presented. Okay, let me go there. You can see the source.
You can zoom it a bit, yes.
Yeah, you can zoom it. You can see the source. You can see the destination. You can see all of the techniques. Let me zoom a little bit. You can see the techniques. In this case, here we are. In this case, this is the sources, a service. This one can do a service discovery and use LSS secret, meaning that we have on that specific domain, domain controller, potentially some capacity to steal credentials. In the same of that, because that specific group is domain admin, by compromising those set of machines, you can have admin access to a specific domain controller, and that is, potentially having a path to go to that machine, which is exactly what this attack path is looking after. Okay. If we want to have more explanation, we have what we use AI internally as well. We have our own data model that has been trained with 1.5 trillions of entry points that we have per year. Okay, and so with that, our Tenable One exposure management platform can expressly understand these specific attack paths and then our LLM engine or Gen AI engine specifically can generate that explanation for the security practitioners using it. Okay, we have the attack details. We can see the techniques. We also are mapping to the matter attack framework, and then this is the matter attack framework detailed techniques. Okay. And in a nutshell, that is what I wanted to show you, which is a very high-level view of an exposure management platform to very quickly having access to what is important from a business standpoint.
Indeed, I liked what you have said about AI and the fact that you practically AI is dependent on the source of data a lot, and when you are giving to the model the right source of data, in your case, practically covering such a big domain, that is definitely it's helping a lot. I know, to find potential vulnerabilities, potential issues, and gaps in the environment.
So let's finally talk about AI. So the last of the fifth pillars from exposure management standpoint is AI exposure. So we acquired the technology and we integrated that technology directly into Tenable One to cover three use cases. Number one is having the capacity to look after AI agents, what they do, how they do response, if there is any prompt injection, if there is any behavior that a specific agent could have from an exposure standpoint. Number two, we do detect AI attacks as well, prompt injections and jailbreak, and we can block or at least AI agents from a data standpoint, because this is a third use case, which is what about the data? What about the data which is exposed? Imagine your agent have access to some databases. They has been programmed to be able to do some task, but suddenly starts to share more information that he shouldn't share. Okay, imagine a specific employee is doing exactly the same by using AI tools, because obviously there is another use case we are covering is shadow AI, and we have a use case called AI aware. So we are looking after how the people are using AI, and we're looking after how the people are building AI. How people, when I say organizations, are building AI. Those are the two elements we are covering with those three use cases attached to exposure management.
User-centric with the AI, because it's crucially important. Very, very interesting.
Here we are.
Here we are.
That's what I wanted to share with you.
It was a very interesting presentation, and as I said, you have answered most of my questions that I usually have as a CISO during the presentation. I should say just thank you for the great presentation, and looking forward for the next episode where you can present news about Tenable and the development that you have. I see that you have and you personally and as a company, you have been going through a huge transformation over the years, and nowadays you have really great solution. It's a solution just because it's not just a set of tools. It's a solution that gives a lot of power in the hands of the chief information security officers to control their environment, which is crucially important.
I think the fact that the three analysts put us as a leader, yes, it's important to have a vision, but we execute that vision. And that is something which is very, very important. I've joined Tenable 4 years ago. We already had an exposure management vision and strategy. 4 years after, definitely we applied that strategy. We executed that strategy. And that's why, the analysts have decided to put us leaders. It's not only because we have a vision, it's because we executed that vision.
I agree with that. And my experience with other vendors, knowing, how the things work from technological point of view, I agree fully with that, with what you're saying. You definitely have a vision about the future, and it's not by coincidence, that you're the leader. Once again, thank you very much for your time today. Looking forward for the next one. See you.
Thank you. Bye.
Excellent.